Hello, hello, hello. We're gonna get our live stream started. Um, Thank you everyone for taking some time out of your day to join me in this live class. It's really special to know that people from around the world are coming and attending this class virtually. Let me see, we have folks in the chat from Belgium, Germany, Sweden, Ukraine. Welcome. Oh, a lot of folks from Europe. If you haven't introduced yourself yet, come on into the chat. We're at espressoenglish.net/live and tell everyone what your name is and where you're from. So, first of all, can you see me and can you hear me? I want to make sure everything is working correctly. So, if everything is good, then please tell me so in the chat. I know there might be a little bit of a delay between when I'm speaking and when the video is coming through to you. But hopefully our internet will stay good and we'll be able to have a great class. Everything is great. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So first of all, thank you so much to everyone who sent in questions ahead of time about words and phrases from the news. I know that reading or listening to the news in English can be really challenging and I have to applaud you because you're reading and listening to things that are made by and made for native English speakers. So it often tends to be really high level vocabulary and some expressions and phrases that you might not have learned. It's a great way to challenge yourself and help bring your English to the next level, but it can also be frustrating. I know I have also learned another language. My second language is Portuguese, and I know it's really hard when you're trying so hard to read something or to watch a video and you just keep getting caught by words that you don't know, and so then it makes the whole sentence hard to understand. And then if you miss a sentence, then maybe you've missed some of the main points and you can't follow where the story is going. So that's why I'm teaching English from the news. Now, I got a lot of great questions from you all. And okay, I got a lot of great questions from you all, and I unfortunately won't have time to cover everything, but I picked 10 expressions that we're going to work on, and everything else. Well, you can send me a message and ask me about it, and me and my assistant teacher will try to respond. I know some of you also asked me general English questions, and if you have a question about courses as well, you can send those through the contact form. General English questions, I'm going to save those ideas for future lessons. I really appreciate it when you ask me questions because I save them and I make lessons out of them. Okay, so I see there are about 39 people in the chat. That's great. And on YouTube, we have 93 people watching now. Woohoo! All right, so let's jump in. But before we get started, I wanted to remind you that there are only 3 days left to sign up for my new course, which is called Current Events English. And as you might have guessed from the theme, this course will be based on the news. So every day in the month of May, starting on May 1st, oh, I'm sorry, for 30 days in the month of May, I'm going to pick a recent news article and then go through the vocabulary and teach you vocabulary from that news article. So if you're interested in learning in this way, directly from the news and having me help you walk through the vocabulary and explain it clearly, then come on and join Current Events English. Now, the last thing I want to say about this course is that there's a deadline. That means the doors are going to close on this course. So May 1st is the first day of the course, and it's also the last day to sign up. So if you're interested, you can click on the button. There should be 2 buttons under this video. It might be under the chat, or if you're watching on YouTube, in the video description. You can click the links to learn more about the course, as well as there's also a free sample lesson. So you can see exactly what the lesson format is like, what the vocabulary exercises are like. There's also an option to send in your writing and have it corrected by a teacher. That might be me, or I also have a wonderful assistant teacher who is helping with those corrections, okay? So if you're interested in that, check out the links below, especially if you are an intermediate, upper intermediate, or advanced English student. All right, let's get into some vocabulary from the news. So, 10 terms I'm going to teach you today, and I'll also try to keep an eye on the chat. It's a little bit difficult because I have a chat window here and a chat window on YouTube, and it's hard to read the chat and uh, teach at the same time, but I'm going to do my best. All right. So the first question was from an article about a proposal for reforming higher education. Higher education refers to college and university. And there's a presidential candidate named Elizabeth Warren, and she has an interesting proposal for changing the way that we pay for college in the United States. And a student asked a question. They said, Elizabeth Warren's proposal, can you see that? I hope it's the right way around. Elizabeth Warren's proposal raises eyebrows. What does this mean for something to raise your eyebrows? Well, first of all, this is your eyebrow, okay? This hair above your eye. The hair over here, this is called your eyelashes, but we're talking about eyebrows. So if something raises your eyebrows, what does that mean? Well, we often raise, lift up, our eyebrows when we are, let me put this over on this side. We often raise our eyebrows when we are surprised, shocked, or skeptical. Skeptical means we don't really believe something. So we might kind of go, maybe raise one eyebrow. Or if you're surprised or shocked. So if her proposal for reforming higher education raises eyebrows, it means that it is shocking, surprising, or it makes people skeptical. And this is the case. She has some ideas about making college free. Not everyone agrees with them, but people find this surprising, shocking, or maybe they don't believe it's possible. So that's what it means for her proposal about reforming higher education in the United States to raise eyebrows. It means it's surprising, shocking, or it makes you skeptical. Actually, lesson 1 of the current events English course is based on an article about these educational reform proposals. So we're going to get even deeper into the vocabulary about this particular candidate's ideas on how higher education should be changed in the US. That's going to be lesson 1. It will come out on May 1st. If you're a member of Current Events English, then you will get that lesson. All right, next one, number 2. This is from a headline. The headline is the title of the article, and it says, where's this best? Okay. Measles outbreak continues to rage. There's a lot of words to learn here. So measles, first of all, is a disease. It's a disease that makes a red rash on your skin, and it's a disease that we have a vaccine for. So most children get a vaccine against measles. But nowadays, some people are choosing not to get these vaccines for their children, and so diseases like measles are starting to come back. And so in this case, we have a measles outbreak. An outbreak refers to when a disease appears and spreads in an area. We call that an outbreak of a disease. So it means there's not just one person who has it, there's a bunch of people in kind of the same area who have the same disease, and maybe it's starting to spread. So measles outbreak, that's appearance and spread of this disease called measles, continues to rage. What does it mean to rage? You might be familiar with the word rage. It means anger in another context, but in this context, if a disease or an outbreak of a disease is raging, it means it has a violent intensity. So this isn't just a small little outbreak. This is something that is violently and intensely affecting people. That's what it means for something to rage. Another place you'll often see the word rage is when talking about a storm, a thunderstorm. Sometimes you'll see a sentence like, the storm was raging. It means the thunderstorm was very violent, and there's thunder and lightning and heavy rain. So to rage in this context means to continue to be violent and intense, okay? So 3 different vocabulary words in this headline. Measles, that's a childhood disease that causes a red rash on your skin. Outbreak, which refers to when a disease appears and starts spreading, and it continues to rage means it continues to be violent and intense. All right? Okay. I hope you're following along with me. Let's see, we've got a few people joining us late, but that's okay. Another thing I wanted to mention is that this is being recorded. So if I'm going a little bit fast, or if you want to go back and review any of the words, or if you missed it and you want to watch it later, or you just want to see my live class again, you will be able to do so on my YouTube channel, and I'll also leave the video replay up on this page. All right, next word. Someone asked me, what does it mean, this word, a briefing? You might see a sentence in the news like, the president received a briefing from the Minister of Defense. A briefing is basically a report. So if the president received a briefing from the Minister of Defense, that means the Minister of Defense met with the president, or maybe not. A briefing can happen face to face. You can give information or give facts or give a report in person, or you can send a briefing through a phone call or through text, maybe an email. But a briefing just means a report, usually of some essential facts or information that you need about the situation. You might be familiar with the word brief as an adjective. Brief means to be short, but in this case, a briefing, it could be short, it could be a summary of the key facts, or it could be longer. I mean, let's say there's a really complex situation, then you might receive a 3-hour briefing on all the details. So a briefing is not necessarily short. It just means a report of facts and information. And you can use brief as a verb as well. We'll usually see it brief someone on something. That means to inform them, to give them the information, give them the facts. So let's say you're at work and you have a problem with one of your employees and you can't resolve it, so you need to go to your manager who's higher up than you. You might say, I need to brief my manager on this situation, meaning I need to give my manager the facts and the information about this situation. All right, so a briefing means a report, and the verb to brief someone on something means to give them the information, the necessary information about that topic. Okay, number 4. I'm going to read this one because it was part of a paragraph. It said, the word, first of all, is crack down on. Okay, so listen for it in this excerpt. A university in Japan says it has stopped hiring faculty members who smoke unless they promise to quit, a once unthinkable decision in a country that has just recently cracked down on its heavy smoking ways. So the question is, what does this phrase mean, crack down on? This is a phrasal verb, and to crack down on means to crack down on something, means to take strong measures against that thing. So Japan is cracking down on smoking. That could mean it's passing stronger laws against smoking. Cracking down on could also mean more intense punishments. So if a country is trying to crack down on drunk driving, they want to reduce it, they want to eliminate it, then maybe they expand the punishment from 1 year jail time to 10 years jail time. Okay, so they want to take a strong measure against this thing. We usually crack down on something bad. It's usually someone in authority, like a government or maybe a school, uh, changing the laws or changing the rules, or maybe putting more police on the streets to help crack down on crime, to take strong measures against that thing, to try to reduce it or eliminate it. Maybe a school tries to crack down on cheating by, I don't know, how would you crack down on cheating? Maybe by adding more teachers during exams to make sure that students aren't cheating, or maybe they would make students put their cell phones in the front of the room so they can't like look up the answers on their phone. So to crack down on is to take strong measures against something in order to reduce it or eliminate it. And in the context of this article that someone asked me about, Japan is cracking down on smoking. They are trying to reduce or eliminate smoking, and the example that was given is that a university there stopped hiring professors who smoke unless they promise to quit. So they're taking stronger measures against smoking. Okay, we got 4 done, 6 to go. And this next one is a little hard to explain, but I'm going to try my best. So please be patient with me. This expression is, that's your prerogative. That's a bit of a tough word to pronounce, prerogative. Some people don't even pronounce this first R. They say something like prerogative, but anyway, that's your prerogative. What does this mean? A prerogative is a special right or privilege. Let me give you an example. Maybe this will help. I'll try to come up with a couple of examples. Let's say you have a friend and uh, you don't agree with the way she disciplines her children. Maybe she spanks them, she hits them on their butt, and maybe you don't agree with that. Maybe you don't think it's okay to ever hit a child for doing something wrong. But you can't really say anything about her parenting style because you're not those children's parents. She's the parent. So the way she disciplines her children is her prerogative. It's her right or her privilege to do what she wants to do inside her own family. Maybe that's not the best example. Let me think of a different one. Okay, I got one. So in some countries, voting is mandatory. Oh, let me move back a bit from the camera. In some countries, voting is mandatory. It is obligatory. You have to vote. I know Brazil is like that, for example. Well, in the US, voting is optional. You can choose to vote or you can choose not to vote. That's your prerogative as a citizen of the US. You have the right to choose whether or not to vote. So a lot of times people will say something like, that's your prerogative, when they disagree with what you're doing, but they recognize that you have the right to do it. Another example might be, okay, here's another one. Let's say my cousin eats a lot of fast food and I think that's really unhealthy. So I think he shouldn't do that. But what he eats is his prerogative. I can't control, I have no right to control what he eats. It's his right or his privilege to choose the food he wants to choose. So that's your prerogative is often used for when you disagree with something, but you recognize that the other person has the right or privilege to make those decisions for themselves. Does that make sense? Okay, this is a little difficult. Let me just check in really quickly with the chat. Yes, if you can't hear me, make sure you click on the video, click play. And let's see, I got chat on the page, I got chat on the YouTube. Whew, okay. Yeah, let's keep going. Let me get back to my screen. Thank you for being patient with me. Sometimes it's difficult to do all these technology things at the same time I'm trying to explain vocabulary. Okay, let me get my notes here. Okay, and our next term from the news is political correctness. What does this mean? You might see political correctness, or you might see something described as politically correct or not politically correct. This actually doesn't have much to do with politics, believe it or not. Political correctness is being very careful to avoid offending or harming people, especially people who in the past have been discriminated against or disadvantaged in society. So an example of this would be, let's say someone tells a joke about a certain race, and that joke the funny part of the joke is based on a racial stereotype. A stereotype is like a generalization, like you're saying all black people do this or all Asian people do that. Jokes like that are not politically correct because they could offend a black person or an Asian person or a Jewish person, because you're making fun of a racial stereotype. So a joke like that would not be politically correct because it's offensive, or it could make someone of that group feel bad. Another example, some people like to do this, is there's a word in English, mankind, which mankind refers to all of humanity, men and women. But some people say it's better not to say mankind because that has the word man in it, and we don't want to exclude women because historically men have held the power and women have been excluded or discriminated against. So some people say we should change mankind to humankind, because the word human refers to everybody. And that's the more politically correct term, okay, because it avoids offending women. Now, political correctness is controversial. Some people love it. They say it's great that we are watching what we say and trying to avoid things that could offend people or hurt their feelings. Other people hate political correctness. They say this is ridiculous, people are too sensitive, and a joke is just a joke, it's no big deal. So this is a bit of a divisive issue. Some people love political correctness, other people strongly dislike it because they say it infringes on their free speech. So if you have an opinion on that, write it in the chat, but let's not argue, please. Let's try to keep the focus on English learning. All right, next one. Oops. Okay, yes, next one, number 7. This came up in an article where the Chinese president was talking about a big infrastructure project, and he said they had accomplished 283 deliverables. What's a deliverable? A deliverable is an item to be completed as part of a project. So it doesn't necessarily mean delivery, like giving something to someone. A deliverable is just a task or part of a project that is finished and gives results. So in the case of a big infrastructure project, something like building a bridge or repairing a highway, if they finished those things, then they reached the deliverables. You'll often see this in the business world. If let's say your company is hiring a consultant to improve marketing for your company, some of the deliverables might be 2 times the number of Facebook fans, or we want to increase the number of customers by 10%. These items or these little goals that are part of this big project are called deliverables. So a deliverable in the context of a project is a specific item to be completed within that project. Okay, our next one is another phrasal verb. If you're interested in phrasal verbs, I do have a course that focuses specifically on phrasal verbs. It's called Phrasal Verbs in Conversation. And in that course, you'll see phrasal verbs in the context of dialogues. And then I have videos similar to this one where I explain each phrasal verb. And of course, then you can practice them with exercises. But you will also see phrasal verbs in the news, like crack down on, which we saw earlier. So this phrasal verb comes from an article about another potential candidate for president in 2020. That's when our next presidential election is in the US. And this candidate is a part of the Republican Party. That's the more conservative party. That's the party that our current president, Donald Trump, is part of. But this candidate is gay. He is a man married to a man. And this candidate is riling up parts of the Republican Party. Can you guess what it means to rile up? Rile someone up means to make them agitated and angry. So in the case of Republicans, again, that's the more conservative and traditional political party in the US, some Republicans support gay people and gay marriage, and others very strongly disapprove or even hate gay people. So this gay Republican presidential candidate is really riling people up. He's making them agitated. He's making some of them angry. It's causing some excitement, some emotion within the Republican Party. Another example of riling up or getting someone riled up could mean just getting people like excited, like high energy. Like for example, if you take your kids to a playground and they play with a whole bunch of other kids, and then after that they just have like a ton of crazy energy, you could say the kids are all riled up. It means they just have high energy. Doesn't necessarily mean they're angry. But in this case, in the case of the article about the gay presidential candidate, it does mean that people are agitated and angry. So depending on the context, you have to figure out whether it means just excited or agitated and angry. Another example of maybe rile up meaning to make people agitated and angry is, let's say you have a soccer game. Maybe it's a World Cup game. Maybe it's the World Cup final. So it's any other soccer fans in here? I love soccer. I used to play soccer. Anyway, let's say it's the World Cup final, and the referee, that's the official who's kind of controlling the rules of the game, he makes a bad call. Maybe there was a foul, a physical contact, and he didn't stop the game. And that would get the fans riled up. It would rile up the fans because they would be agitated and angry that the official missed that call. So riled up, riling up, phrasal verb meaning to make excited, or more commonly, I think, make people agitated and angry. Think about a time when you've gotten all riled up. I know that I sometimes get riled up when people leave insulting comments on my videos. It really annoys me because I'm taking the time to try to teach something. I know my videos aren't perfect, and I don't think it's appropriate for people to leave rude comments. But I love and appreciate all of you who leave wonderful comments, because that makes me feel better after I get riled up by some of these rude comments. All right, let's move on. We have 2 more to go, and then I'll answer some of your questions in the chat, and we'll go from there. All right, next one. This is going to require a little bit more explanation. So we have a website and a company in the United States, Amazon.com. And here in the US, if you order something on Amazon, if you buy a product on the Amazon website, you can get it at your house usually in 2 days. Well, Amazon, that's really convenient. So Amazon wants to change 2-day shipping to 1-day shipping. So they want it, if I buy a product today, today's Sunday, they want me to be able to get it on Monday really, really fast. Well, that plan is sparking backlash from from the workers. Okay, what does it mean to spark? What does it mean to spark backlash? To spark, there we go. To spark means to cause or activate. A spark, the noun form, is that little piece of burning fire that can start a fire. So a spark is like a little speck of little point of fire. And a spark can actually, if it lands on paper or dry leaves, a spark can start a fire. So spark as a verb means to cause or activate. And then backlash. What is backlash? Backlash is a strong reaction against something. So Amazon, the company, wants to have this 1-day shipping option, but the workers at Amazon don't like that idea. They are strongly reacting against it because that would mean a lot more stress for the workers, right? They have to work twice as fast. So Amazon's plan to offer 1-day shipping sparks, it causes or it activates backlash, a strong negative reaction against that plan. Another example, let's bring it back to the smoking example we talked about earlier. If smoking was made illegal in the US, smoking is legal right now, but if the government passed a law making smoking illegal, they would get backlash from smokers, right? People who have that habit. And they would also get backlash from the tobacco companies. So backlash is a strong negative reaction against something, all right? And finally, our last one, and then I'll check the chat for some questions. This is from a review of the new Avengers movie, which is one of the biggest movies right now worldwide. And one of my students was reading a review of the movie, and at the beginning of the article, it said, warning, contains spoilers. What's a spoiler? Well, the verb spoil, so just this part, the verb spoil means to ruin something, to make it bad, to destroy it. Let's say I have a white shirt and I spill a glass of red wine all over it. That would spoil the shirt. It would ruin it. In this case, a spoiler in the context of a book, or especially really of movies and TV shows, a spoiler is when someone tells you a fact about maybe the end of the movie or the end of the book that ruins the surprise. Because part of the fun of watching a movie is that you don't know what's going to happen and you want to see it for yourself. So if a review of the movie contains spoilers, that means that inside the article, it's going to talk about some things that happen in the movie that maybe if you haven't seen it yet, you don't want to read the article because it's going to spoil, ruin the surprise for you. So it's a nice thing that articles about movies will often put contain spoilers so that you don't accidentally read it and then you feel sad or you feel disappointed that you read it in an article instead of actually seeing the movie yourself. Okay, so that's what a spoiler is. Let me get to, hey, no spoilers in the chat. All right, let's see. Wow, we've got 32 people chatting. Let me see what else is going on. Okay. Do, do, do. Okay, we've got Morocco, Hungary, Argentina, Mali. Woohoo! It's so cool to see an international group here. Okay, real quick. Difference between proposal and proposition. That's a tough one. A lot of times they are mostly the same. So let me just check something. Sometimes, you think that as an English teacher, I know all the answers, but I often check the dictionary too in order to just make sure I'm giving you the correct information. So I just looked up the word proposition, and the first definition says a plan suggested for acceptance, a proposal. So proposition and proposal in a lot of cases are going to mean the same thing. Let me look, let me see if I've got anything else in my notes. Let's see. Someone asked, oh, here's an interesting one. This isn't really news, but these are very common phrases, so you will see them in the news. The difference between about to and going to. So both of these refer to the future. Going to means at some time in the future. So I could say, tomorrow I'm going to prepare a lesson, or next year I'm going to learn a musical instrument. So going to can mean anytime in the future. It can mean the next moment, or it could mean tomorrow, next month, next year, 10 years from now, right? About to means that the thing is going to happen almost immediately in the very near future. So I can say, let's see, I'm about to, what am I about to do? I'm about to look at the chat for more questions that I can answer, or I'm about to, it's something I'm going to do after this. I'm about to, it's, about to is usually used for the very immediate future. So let's say you see a book on the table and the book is kind of like, here's the table and here's the book and the book is kind of almost falling off the table. You could be like, you could say, hey, this book is about to fall. It's going to immediately fall. So to answer the question, about to versus going to can mean anytime in the future. About to means in the very immediate future. All right. Let's see what else. You are welcome. Hi, India, Turkey, Egypt, Peru. That's awesome. There is a question about, I got a question. This is a more general strategy question, and that is how can we skim and scan the news? So skimming and scanning, in case you're not familiar with these terms, refer to when you read a text kind of quickly, so you don't read every single word, you just you try to read it quickly to just get a general idea. And then that's skimming. And then scanning is looking for a very specific piece of information. So an example of skimming would be, let's say you see a news article and you're interested in it, but you don't have very much time. You only have like 1 minute, maybe before your train comes and you have to get on the train. If you skim the article, it means you kind of let your eye go down the article really fast and just get the general idea. Scanning is when you're looking for specific information. Let's say there's an article about a museum and you want to find out when the museum is open. So there's a specific thing you're looking for. And so you skim, you kind of let your eye go down the text of the article, but you're looking for something specific, the museum's hours. how can you skim and scan the news? This is a very useful skill to have in English because how many of you have faced the problem where you're reading something and you try to go word by word and it's just so slow? Skimming and scanning can help. It can help improve your reading speed, but just like anything else, it's a skill that you get better at with practice. So when you skim, I suggest looking for, let's say, three general ideas from the article. So you don't try to read every word. You just kind of go really quickly. You don't worry about the words you don't know. You just go really quickly and try to get three general ideas from the article. And that's a way. It's good to have this ability to skim fast because that can help you on like English exams when you have a limited amount of time. So you need to find some information fast and you don't have time to go word by word. Skimming is also useful because let's say you're reading an article or you need to read an article and you skim quickly and you get the three main ideas, but then you want to go back and read one of them more in depth with more detail, then you know where it is in the article. So you can go back and just read that section maybe that you were interested in. So skimming and scanning, just practice. Try to get just two or three main ideas out of the article, and then you can go back and read word for word when you have more time. Okay, I don't want to go on too long. I do want to remind you again that we're going to be starting a new course May 1st, and this course will be based on current events. I already am preparing the first few lessons. So the first lesson is about this proposal for maybe making college free in the United States. College is currently very expensive, and this is kind of a radical proposal. The second lesson is about, let me find, well, I don't remember what the second lesson is about. Second lesson is about, um, I'll tell you in a second. Dun, 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 dun. So, the second lesson is about the new space race. So, new initiatives for space exploration. So, that first article is more about politics. Second article is about technology. The third article is about sports, but it also has a component about racial issues. It's about Tiger Woods, who's a famous black golfer, recently won a championship, a golf tournament, and that was a big surprise to everyone. But the writer of this article reflects on some of the ways that's significant and how he feels about it. The fourth article is about a new book coming out about parenting practices and what science says about parenting. So, as you can see, the topics are really varied. I know that sometimes when we think about news, we think of boring political stuff or we think about always bad news, right? The news, sometimes the TV only wants to show us bad news, negative news, tragedies, and everything. I'm going to really try to keep it a mix of different topics and have positive and negative so that it's not just depressing. But the one thing that I guarantee is that you are going to learn a lot of vocabulary. In this first lesson alone, I think there are 20 or 25 vocabulary words that I pull out of the article and I explain each one in context and hopefully make it clearer so that when you read the article, you can say, oh, now I understand what that means. And now I can follow the ideas in the article thanks to Shayna having explained that vocabulary. So, one thing about vocabulary is you've got to practice it. A lot of my students tell me, okay, I learn all this new vocabulary and then I can't use it or the next day it's gone. Well, it's really important to practice it. So, in each lesson in Current Events English, after the video explanation of the vocabulary, there's a vocabulary exercise where you basically try to match the words into the right sentence. And I also recommend, in order to really help get this vocabulary to stick in your memory, do the vocabulary exercise and then the next day go back and review what you learned the previous day. So before taking the new lesson, go back and review the previous one. It's really important to practice and review things not just once but multiple times. That's what really helps it stay in your memory. And then the other part of the Current Events English course, this is optional, so you can get just the lessons and the vocabulary exercise for $30, 30 lessons, $30. Or if you want this extra part, which is a writing task where you can send in 2 or 3 paragraphs of your text and I or my assistant teacher will correct it and give you feedback. And of course, you get the 30 lessons based on the news. That version costs $60. So you can choose which one you want, whether you want it with teacher feedback. That's really good if you want to practice your writing, and also if you're more advanced, right? To get more personalized feedback on your writing, or just the lessons for $30. A couple of people have also asked me, you might know, okay, you might know that I have a lot of courses, right? I think I have about 12 courses and five ebooks. Yeah, I've done a lot of English lessons over the years. And you might know that I sell that complete package, everything, the 12, 11 or 12 courses and five ebooks. I can't even remember how many courses I have, for a discounted price of $247. And some people want to know if you join the complete program, will you get access to the current events English course? And the answer is yes. So if you want to get everything, that's more than 400 lessons covering all the areas of the English language: speaking, listening, reading, vocabulary, grammar, phrasal verbs, pronunciation, idioms, slang, uh, uh, what else? Yeah, there's a lot there. Improve all your English skills. If you want to get the whole package, you can get that for $247. That's a discount from what would normally be more than $400, actually more than $600 nowadays, because I've added to and expanded some of the courses. You will also get access to current events English. And if you just want current events English, then come on over and sign up. May 1st is the last day. Why am I closing the doors to current events English? This is something new. Normally with my other courses, I would just leave them open all the time. Well, I think that because of the topic of this course, since it's based on the news and based on current events, it's really good to do the course when it's still current, right? Because 5 years from now, or 1 year from now, there's going to be different things in the news. So I would really like everyone to come into current events English and to do it now. You might also be wondering, do I have to keep up with the one lesson a day for 30 days? Because that seems really fast and I don't have time to study every day. Don't worry, because if you join, you will keep access to those lessons forever. So I'm going to publish 30 lessons in 30 days. That's going to be very intense for me. But if you can't keep up, I understand that life is busy and you just might not have time to study every day. You can keep those lessons for permanently, okay? But you can't sign up after May 1st. So it's open now. If you want to join, join now. If there's enough interest, then I hope I can do this course every year. So I hope that next year, again, if we have enough students interested, if only a few people are interested, then unfortunately I won't do it. But if a lot of you students are interested, then I might do a new version of Current Events English every year. So next year's version would be based on next year's news, completely new and different topics. So we'll see how it goes. This is a very new project for me. And if you've already signed up, then thank you for trusting me to be your teacher. I really appreciate it. And I really hope that I can help you improve your English. All right. So, like I said, the recording for this one will be available on my YouTube channel, so you can go back and review the 10 vocabulary words we learned today, because that's the best way to keep them in your memory. And if you can, try to write a sentence with them or think of an example, right? That's another way to improve your memory of this vocabulary. Thank you everyone for coming today. I get so much energy from teaching you all live and seeing you interact in the chat. I'm sorry I can't respond to everyone because otherwise it would just get too crazy. But if you have a burning question, here's a bonus vocabulary word. A burning question is like a really urgent question that you just feel you have to ask. If you have a burning question, then come to my website, espressoenglish.net, click on contact, and you can ask me a question about my courses, about current events English, or general English questions. I and my assistant teacher, we try to answer as many questions as we can, and if we can't answer everybody, then we will often save your questions for future lessons. Okay, Thank you. One quick question. Is there guidance if you buy the complete package how to study? Yeah, that's a really good question because with more than 400 lessons, where do you start? Yes, just email me after you buy the complete program and I will send you a suggested study guide that will give you the order that kind of makes sense to study those courses. There's enough for more than a year of study, and same with the complete program. If you join that, you keep access forever. And I'll also send you a USB drive with everything downloaded onto it. They're really, oh, I don't have one with me. They say Espresso English on them. So it's a nice little gift for my complete program students. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I will see you in the next video. And I hope to see you inside the current events English course. Bye for now.